What's going on, everybody? It's your man Louie T here on the Louie T Network podcast, episode 435. Number of topics to dive into tonight, and I got an interesting one. Um, we saw some QBs get paid from that 2020 draft class. It felt inevitable, just like a lot of these situations feel inevitable that they will be resolved at some point. Um, we're going to get to what is the best way to handle a contractual situation. Is it the hold out or is it the new hold in? I've got some I got some opinions on this. So we'll talk about that. Tua gets paid, so does Jordan Love, among others. The Lions take care of another one of their offensive linemen. So some money's being dished out. There's plenty more where that came from, but it's a lot of disgruntled players right now looking to get theirs. And I don't know if it's me, and I don't like to be that guy that sensationalizes things, talks about, you know, a situation because it's the newest thing that it's the most, right? I don't like to be a prisoner of the moment, but feels like an awful lot of guys holding out and in right now, doesn't it? Or is it just me? I don't know. We'll discuss. Anyway, you're locked into the Louie T Network podcast that starts now.
The Louie T Network is powered by MusicHead University. MusicHeads, classes in session. Turn me up. Enroll on YouTube now. Link is in the description.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 435th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Eventful weekend. Olympics are underway. I think the U.S. has gotten off to a pretty good start in most sports thus far. Um, I haven't really hunkered down and watched the Olympics like I really probably should. I think that's going to take place probably sometime this week. I did take a look at the basketball team destroy Serbia again. That's the second time they've beaten the reigning NBA MVP Nikola Jokic and his group. If they shoot the way they shot the ball in that game, Kevin Durant was back for the first time since his injury that kept him out of a lot of those exhibition games, we'll call them. But showcase, let's call them showcase games. He was back and he shot it extremely well. He came off the bench and was the sixth man. Steve Kerr says he doesn't know if they're going to continue having him come off the bench in that role. Kevin Durant says he's willing to do whatever it takes to help this team win. They didn't play Jason Tatum. This is a part of, being a part of Team USA. Everyone's not going to play every single game. Kerr felt really bad, clearly, that he didn't play Tatum. He vowed to play him in the next game. Devin Booker started this game against Serbia and played really well, shot it well. But the entire team shot it well in that game. And if they shoot like that, nobody's going to beat them. That's ultimately what it boils down to is if they shoot it well. Kevin Durant missed one shot. He was 8 of 9. I think he was 3 for 3 from deep. Devin Booker was 4 or 5 from deep. If they're shooting it like that, Steph Curry, I think he knocked down 3 threes. I think LeBron knocked down 2 or 3 threes. I think they made as a team 14 or 17 threes, something along those lines. If they're shooting it that way, and they shot over, I want to say they shot almost 60% from the field, and they shot over 50% from deep. If they're doing that, nobody's beating them, and none of the games are close. They're not going to shoot that way every game. I'm fully aware, but this is what they can be when they're knocking down shots, which is why I've said that this is one of the most talented, Olympic teams in recent memory. I think when you look at the combination of stars and role players, I think this is one of the best groups they've had, to be honest with you. If everyone buys in and is doing their part and chipping in and doing the things that we know they're capable of, having Derek White and Drew Holiday and Bam Adebayos and guys like that are going to be selfless, that are going to do the dirty work, that are going to do the things that are going to allow the stars to shine. This team's going to be impossible to beat. But they got to stay locked in. They got to make shots, and everybody's got to do their part. Joel had another rough go of it, but he'll eventually be someone that they'll need in some of these games. He was booed profusely by the home crowd. Remember, he's really of French descent. He could have played for the French national team. He instead elected to play for the U.S. and obviously they weren't happy about it. And I don't know if that affected his play or not, but he wasn't very good in that game. And they booed the hell out of him. And that's going to be a theme more likely than not. So he better get used to it. But I saw that the players talked about how nervous they were playing in front of such big crowds. They're not used to this. In an NBA arena, you're talking about 13, 14,000 people. And that's if it's sold out. Most games, depending on the opponent, they do sell out, but they're playing in front of over 20,000 people. I think the game that they just had against Serbia was 22,000 fans, and it was packed to the ceiling. It was something that a lot of these players haven't played. I mean, they played in a stadium, not an arena. They played in a stadium where they don't normally have basketball games there. So it was a bigger crowd. They had to adjust. Steph Curry said he was a bit nervous. LeBron James said he was nervous. So they didn't play like it. That's for sure. They started out slow. It was 10-2 Serbia early, and then after that, they got their acts together. And maybe that was the nerves early on in the game. But whatever the case may be, they ultimately got their act together, shot the lights out, and ran away with that game. And we'll see if if they can keep up some sort of consistency shooting the ball, because ultimately, and I'll say this again, if they don't win gold, if they lose or slip up somewhere along the way, it'll be because they didn't shoot well. You can direct correlation, trace it to them going, 7 of 31 from deep, and that'll be the game they lose. Like if they don't shoot it well and the other team does, and the other team knocks down 13 or 14 threes, that'll be the game that they lose, right? If they're knocking down threes, they're not going to get beat. So anyway, I digress. Other Olympic events that I want to tune into, swimming. They've already started a lot of the swimming. I haven't watched any of it. I'm ashamed of that. Track and field is my jam, so I'll be looking out for that, obviously. And I don't know if I'm gonna do the gymnastics or not. Not even gonna front. Not even gonna hold you on that. My wife is into that heavy. Me, not so much. Not so much. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to the gym dropping session, shall we? I think we shall. Let me drop this gym on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man Louie T double E. Let me open you up, get you thinking a little bit. So I wanted to start off the pod by asking a simple question and then giving my form of an answer. Here recently with the new CBA, we've seen a rash of hold ins, guys disgruntled and not happy with their contractual situation, looking for either more guaranteed money or just looking for a new deal in general. They're, at on the last year of their deal, there's no guarantees, or they feel like they're worth more money and this deal's about to run out. I need reassurances that if something were to go awry, I'm taken care of. I don't have that currently. I need it. And so thus I'm coming in because I'm not paying you 1 red cent per the CBA. If I hold out, I'll have to be subjected to fines. Not looking to give away my hard-earned cash. However, I'm not participating in anything. Then there's the old-fashioned traditional way of showing your uh frustrations with your contract. And that's just simply not showing up and holding out altogether. Most veterans aren't taking this tactic as it is counterproductive from a financial standpoint. Now, what we learned last week, and maybe some of you knew this prior to last week, but I learned this last week, is that if you are on a rookie contract, and I learned this because of CD Lamb's situation, if you are on a rookie contract and you um, hold out and you're subjected to fines, because you're on a rookie contract, you can have those fines waived once you agree to terms and show up. I did not know that. So that is good for a guy like CeeDee Lamb. Jamar Chase, if he wanted to technically hold out, he could. If they were to get a deal done. I don't know if Cincinnati's really in a hurry to get a deal done with him this year because they still have another year under their belt at their disposal. So he could be fighting a losing battle. Eventually, he will get paid, and it may happen this offseason. He's standing his ground now, but eventually, we'll see how it goes, right? But we'll see what happens with that situation. And we're getting a number of guys. Trent Williams is holding out. CeeDee Lamb is holding out. Now, Trent Williams is interesting because he's a veteran, and there is no waiving the fees that he's accruing by not showing up. But he doesn't. Clearly, he doesn't care. And not that I blame him because he's made a lot of money, and he's going to make a lot more money when it's all said and done. I think the 49ers are a little frustrated because he still has 3 years left on a very lucrative contract, but in Trent's mind, there's no guaranteed money on this contract. So really, what are we talking about here? So the 49ers are probably like, come on, bro. We already broke you off. And he's like, you did, but now I want more. I want guaranteed money. So we'll see what happens with that situation. But I bring all of that up because I wanted to bring up this. Which of these methods is the most effective if you're holding out? If you're not happy, let me say that. If you're not happy with your contract, which of these two methods are the best plan of action? Holding out, not showing up at all, away from your teammates, away from the facility, not being a part of anything, or holding in. You see everything, you're there, your presence is being felt or lack thereof, but they can see you. Guys are out there busting their ass. They look over on the sidelines, and there you are in the ball cap, the shirt, chilling. And, you know, in the case of Tua, for instance, I thought it was a great ploy on his part to show up, to not do anything. The offense is getting its ass handed to it. And there's your quarterback over there standing, hey, I can help if you just you get me my money. I can get out there and I can help you guys do much better than what you're doing right now. Again, deadline spur action. You're not really hard pressed to get your quarterback or your receiver or your tackle out there in July when there's really nothing on the line right now. But no one likes a messy contract situation, right? You'd like to handle those a lot sooner rather than later. In my mind's eye, from a player standpoint, depends on how ruthless you are, right, as a player. Because if I'm there and I'm watching you go through practice, the competitor in you is going to want to get out there. Obviously, your money is more important than getting out there. You hear guys all the time talk about how much they love the game and they play it for free. Bullshit. Nobody's playing for free. No one's out here off the strict love of the game. None of that shit. My money and my coin comes first, and then we can talk about all that rah-rah camaraderie bullshit. It's all about the money, right? I got to get mine while it's there to be got. And so while I would love to be out there helping you fellas, right? I'd love to be at war with my guys. Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and sit these ones out until I get my money. So you guys understand, right? Everybody understands how this works. If I've got the right mentality of I have no issues whatsoever sitting over here on the sideline watching you guys practice, go out there, battle the elements, and get after it while I sit over here in my ball cap and my shorts and shirt chilling or watching practice from afar with the general manager as you guys get after it. It's probably the better way to go. I can tell you as if I were a teammate, I'd be pretty pissed off to be going through practice. Not that, I'd be upset at my guy. I mean, I want my guy to get paid, right? If we're teammates, everybody's all about, hey man, get yours, right? That's what it's all about. They want to see their teammates get paid. But it's gotta suck. You're busting your ass at practice, you're dog tired, you're taking a knee, you're getting a squirt of water. You look over to your left and your guy's over there just chilling. That's gotta suck. But um, I think the hold in method, while it may suck for your teammates who see you there chilling while they're busting their ass, I think that's to me the most effective method because there's nothing worse than you showing up to work every day. Imagine your job, and I don't know what it is you do, but just imagine your job, right? Whatever it is you do. And imagine one of your coworkers showing up to work every day and not doing a damn thing while they're watching you work. Now, they're still on the clock. Technically, they're still getting paid, right? But they're not happy with their financial situation. This is the way that they're voicing their opinion about their current contract, and they want to renegotiate. And so the way that they voice their frustration is by showing up to work every day and not doing a damn thing. Now, I don't know what it is you do at work, but that would probably be extremely frustrating to say the least, right? Um, Imagine the franchise if in these situations. A lot of times we see the general manager he's standing next to the disgruntled employee, and they're talking about this, that, and the third. I would imagine as they're looking at practice, as they're looking on from afar. I saw Brandon Ayuk doing that with John Lynch a few days ago. That's cool. Still not practicing, and he's probably not going to practice for a little while here. Eventually, he'll get back out there because I don't think they're going to pay him, and he doesn't have a choice, right? You want to get paid. It's kind of a contradiction. If you want to get paid, obviously practice isn't the most, glorifying thing to do. And so, but if I can get out of doing practice, so be it, right? But holding out and not being there altogether kind of feels real out of sight, out of mindish. It's hard to ignore the elephant in the room when it's staring you in the face every single day as you show up to work. My guy is here, but he's not doing anything. We sure could use him out here. Man, it'd be nice if Tua were out here throwing the football around. We're getting our asses handed to us by a bunch of backup defensive players because we don't have our quarterback. Sure would be nice to have Brandon Ayuk out here. Ricky Pearsall is injured and we don't really have any receivers. Be really nice to have Brandon Ayuk out here offensively. Sure would be nice. He's standing right there. I mean, it would be nice if he got out here. I think that's the best way to go about it. When you don't show up, it's easy look, if you're Trent Williams, 10-time Pro Bowl, 5-time All Pro, future first ballot Hall, they're gonna miss your presence, right? They're gonna feel you not being there. Okay. So let's get that straight. Not being there doesn't mean, it's going unnoticed, but it has to me a lot more impact if Trent Williams is standing right there on the sidelines and you can see him. He's not injured. He's there's nothing physically wrong with him. He could get out there if he needed to. If he wanted to. If they wanted to get him out there, they could. Feels a lot different when you see that guy. It's easy to go about your business. Hey, he's not here. We just want to focus on the guys that are here. That's an easy standard line for the the company man, right? The company line is, hey, you know, we can control what we can control. That's our guy. We want him to get his, money. But we just kind of worried about the guys that are here, and we're just gonna worry about the guys that are here. And when that time comes when he shows up, we'll welcome him with open arms. But we're just gonna worry about the guys that are here. What happens when the guy is actually there? You can't even use the company line. We just focused on the guys that are here. He's actually here. He's just not practicing. I think holding out and not showing up is the thing of the past. CeeDee Lamb is exercising that right now. And his situation with Jerry Jones talking about running option, we talked about that on the podcast a couple of days ago, and waiting till the absolute last moment. That thing's going to probably get strung out a little bit longer. He's going to get his money eventually, though, trust me. But to Trent Williams not showing up, interesting play. They know they need him. He knows what he's doing. But I think coming in to the facility, being there, them seeing your face every day, knowing that you're an integral part of what they do. Obviously, they're not forgetting about you, but I feel like being present and in their face every day is a bigger benefit than not being there at all and kind of out of sight, out of mind. I think the team actually also sees it as an act of good faith. Even if you're not doing anything, if you show up and you're there, we can work with that. Like, okay, we get it. You're not happy. Let's talk about this. It's hard to talk about it when you're not there. It's easy to talk about it when you are there. So I do think that's another way too to look at it. But talking about it, we got a number of hold-ins taking place right now. So I didn't realize Alvin Kamara was upset with his contractual situation. However, he's practicing. He's not holding out. He's not holding in. He's actually practicing, but he's not happy, and he's voiced his displeasure with his current contract situation. Tristan Wirfs in Tampa, staying in the NFC South, ready to get paid. And he's one of the best young offensive tackles in the game. Made the switch from right to left. Was it last offseason or the offseason before? Um, one of the two. It was last offseason because um, their left tackle went to Kansas City and won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs this past season. So um, Donovan Smith. So he took over for Donovan Smith and moved over to left tackle last offseason and knocked it out of the park over there. And so he's ready to get broken off. And eventually it's going to happen. But he is holding in there, but not participating. Matthew Judon with the New England Patriots, looking for a new deal, not happy about how his situation is gone. He wants new money. He is currently holding in. He's there in attendance, but not practicing. Trey Hendrickson with the Cincinnati Bengals. Is he holding in or is he holding out? Let's get the clarification on his situation. Think he's holding in as well. Let's see. No, both of them are holding out. They're not there right now. Remember, Trey Hendrickson requested a trade this offseason when he saw where the Cincinnati Bengals were kind of going with his contract negotiations. It was going nowhere fast. And so he requested a trade. I've already told you the one NFL organization you don't want to try to play hardball with is the Cincinnati Bengals. They don't give a shit. They don't give in to demands. They kind of feel like the U.S. government when it comes to terrorists. They don't give in to terrorist demands, right? That's kind of how Cincinnati treats their players. We don't give in to player demands, with the Bengals. So T. Higgins frustrated. They don't give a shit. Jamar Chase, you still got time, buddy. We don't have to pay you yet. Come on in. Stop playing with us. You don't want to go down that road with us. And Trey Hendrickson, we love you. Love you like a play cousin, but don't know if we want to break you off. You're getting up there in age. Don't know if we want to go down that route with you. We just paid Joseph. We got to pay Jamar here shortly. Don't know if investing in you long term is something that makes financial sense for us. So they're stuck with him, right? In that situation. So right there, you got four major players: Tristan Wirfs, Matthew Judon, Trey Hendrickson, Jamar Chase, all unhappy with their current contracts. Holding out are both Bengal players, Jamar Chase and Trey Hendrickson. They're not there. Holding in are both Matthew Judon and Tristan Wirfs. So, not to mention, and I know, and I said this at the top of the show, not to sensationalize this, but doesn't it feel like a lot more guys this offseason than most? Past off seasons, there's always going to be guys unhappy with their current contracts, always looking, looking to get a little bit more, this, that, and the third. But doesn't it feel like a little bit more this offseason? I mean, you got Ayuk, you got Trent Williams, you have Jamar Chase, Trey Hendrickson, Hassan Reddick is still holding out currently. CeeDee Lamb is holding out. You have Matthew Judon, you have Tristan Wirfs that we've talked about today. We just had a couple of quarterbacks holding out that got paid in Jordan Love and Tua Tagovailoa. We'll talk about them here in a second. We had a couple of other players who were, a little bit dissatisfied with their contracts, but they got something done with it, like Matthew Stafford in LA with the Rams. There are other players who are currently, dissatisfied with their current contractual situations and are currently holding out or waiting for some type of solution to their situation. And so it seems like a lot. Again, it might be the same amount, even less than past years, but it just seems like a lot of guys have. It felt like the CBA was supposed to curtail this, and this wasn't supposed to be as big of a topic, but here we do. Here we go. Right. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to social media maneuvers. Midnight Marauder. Y'all know what it is. Before we get to the comment section, and I'll go ahead and make sure that you guys are fully aware that if you're out there, you want your comment read on the air, use the hashtag LouieT Live to have your comment read on the air. If it is pertinent and time permits, we'll get to as many of those comments as possible. But if you want to ensure that your comment is read and that we address it and discuss it on air, the super chat function is the best way to go about that. Not only do you ensure that your comment is read, but you also jump straight to the front of the line. Nothing like cutting the line, man. Nothing like going to the amusement park and getting the fast pass and looking at all of those sad individuals standing in line for an hour and 15 minutes for a 45-second ride when you can just scroll and stroll right past them with a fast pass. It is a beautiful thing. That's what a super chat is, essentially. All right. So, with that said, let's talk about those 2020 quarterbacks getting paid. Um, so, Tua Tagovailoa was holding in. He was at the Dolphins facility. He was at the practice field, but he wasn't participating in team drills. And so his lack of presence on the offense was being felt. They were struggling. That is an understatement. And so the Dolphins brass finally got it done. Tua signs a 4-year, $212 million extension. That is a lot of bread for Tua Tagovailoa. Like, wowzers. Um, Again, this is the going rate. You got to pay to play. You got a quarterback. I've talked about this. The next guy up is the highest paid guy up, right? Um, this is just the cost of doing business. It just that's gotta suck. Having your hands tied behind your back in that manner and having to do what the Dolphins just did. They essentially had a gun to their head. What were they going to do, right? Tua is not worth over $55 million. What is that? It's I don't know if that's 55. That might be like 53 or something like that. If my math serves me correct, I think it is 53 on the head. 50 times 4 is 200. 3 times 4 is 12. So yeah, 53 million. He is not worth $53 million per year. No way, no how. But gotta do what you gotta do, right? On the other hand, Jordan Love gets 4 years, $220 million, which is 55 per year, which makes him what, the third highest paid quarterback in the league. Um, he got a record $75 million at the time of signing. Um, this is what Jordan Love was looking for, and he got it done. His is interesting because it's literally based off of 1 year of performance. That's not something you see very often in the NFL, guys getting paid for 1 year of service in that manner. But again, his situation is unique because he's been in that organization for a while. They know him as an individual. They know him as, a leader and the work ethic that he exhibits. And he went out and he got it done at a high level last season, especially when it mattered most in the postseason. Almost took them to the NFC Championship game. So, they were going to find a way to get something done with him. But boy, if Jordan Love turns into a pumpkin next season, oh my God, that could go down as one of the worst deals ever. Because again, I won't say they went off of blind faith, because I like Jordan Love, and I told you guys this already, and I liked him coming out of Utah State. So this isn't me, railing on Jordan Love. I've always had a soft spot for Jordan Love because I thought he was like Aaron Rodgers. His play style was very Aaron Rodgers esque coming out of Utah State, and he's shown a lot of that. A lot of what Aaron Rodgers um, is about and how he goes about his business has rubbed off on Jordan Love. A lot of off-platform throws and feet not set, and flicking the ball all over the place, similar to Aaron Rodgers. So he is a guy that is very, very intriguing, but it was one season. So I think he's gonna be good, by the way. I don't think they made a mistake here. But we said the same thing about Carson Wentz. I don't think he is fragile minded as Carson Wentz was, and he doesn't have any of the injury concerns that Carson Wentz had going into his, contract situation. But um, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of money for an unproven commodity. Tua hasn't won anything in the playoffs. Jordan Loves has only done it for 1 year. That's a lot of money for two largely unproven commodities. But again, what were they going to do? What was the alternative? There wasn't one. Right? You got to do what you got to do. Right? Anyway, that's crazy to me. But whew, good to see those 2020 quarterbacks. Right now, the 2020 draft of quarterbacks is by far and away the most successful and impressive class of quarterbacks in recent memory. It was supposed to be the 2018 class with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen and Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold and and Baker Mayfield, and that group hasn't been terrible. Baker is kind of resurrecting his career as we speak. Allen has been exceptional. Lamar's a two-time MVP, but the other two have fallen by the wayside, and there was no other quarterbacks in any other rounds, if I'm not mistaken, in that draft that were worth anything, worth talking about. Meanwhile, that 2020 draft, it just continues to grow in its legend. Um, so you've got Herbert. Well, let's start at the top. You've got Burrow, then you've got Herbert and Tua. Now Jordan Love gets paid, and you also have Jalen Hurts in that 2020 draft class as well. So that class is looking really good right now. 5 quarterbacks all being paid and getting the second contracts. I don't know if we've had another draft class have 5 quarterbacks with their same teams. Keep that in mind. Get to a second contract and very lucrative ones, I may add. Um, I can't think of another draft in recent memory where that has occurred. And I say that, and then somebody, well, Louis, actually, that happened in 2015. I don't think it happened in 2015, but because that was the Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota draft. If I'm not mistaken, that was 2015. So it clearly didn't happen in that draft. But, that's the kind of stuff that usually happens when I say stuff like that. Well, can't remember when that happened the last time. And then, actually, Louis, that happened in 2018. Well, we just talked about that 2018 draft. That didn't happen either. Baker's not even with the same team that drafted him, obviously. So that 2020 draft may go down as one of the more successful drafts in recent memory for quarterbacks, and that'll be the one that I think as we were watching the Giants' Hard Knocks, they were talking about first round quarterbacks, and guys that have re-signed with the same franchise and been successful. And I remember the general manager saying, "Well, um, it it could end up being the 2021 draft, which all of those guys except for Trevor Lawrence no longer with their teams, right? Zach Wilson now a Bronco, Trey Lance now a Cowboy, um, um, Justin Fields now a Steeler, and Mac Jones now a Jag, right? Out of the 5 guys, Trevor Lawrence is the last man standing with his original franchise. And but then the rebuttal to that, someone said it also could be the 2020 draft class. This past year's draft with Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May, JJ McCarthy, and Bo Nix. And how it's easy to forget about Michael Penix Jr. because he's not going to play more likely than not. But Michael Penix Jr. is in there too. 6 quarterbacks went in the first 11 picks, 12 picks, I believe it was 12 picks. Never seen anything like it. We'll see what this draft ends up being, but the 2020 draft, the legend grows of 2020 with Love getting a massive 4-year, $220 million contract, and Tua Tagovailoa getting a 4-year, $212 million extension. So let's get to the comment section, see what you guys have to say about that. Start with my guy, David Brown. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, David, writes, hey, Lou, do you think we're done making moves in free agency, or are we rolling that money over for the future? I'd say that we're not done, but there won't be any truly impactful moves left. Like, that portion is over with. Now, there's still going to be some tinkering done to the roster, obviously. Guys that get cut from other teams. Washington will be scouring through the waiver wire. They were looking at teams that cut their 5th and 6th and 7th round picks and seeing if there's a guy or two that they liked during the draft process that didn't make their team's roster. We may be looking to snatch up a few of those guys. Also, remember the kicking situation is not steady in Washington, so expect them to be very vigilant of what's going on around the rest of the league as far as players getting cut as kickers. And Washington, look for them to be somewhat aggressive in pursuing some of these guys to give them an opportunity to come in here and kick to see if we can find us a kicker. So keep that in mind. I don't see them, going after a tackle unless something crazy happens in Washington's camp. I don't see them going out and signing like a David Bakhtiari or something like that. There's still some, notable free agents that can help. Justin Simmons is crazy. I I didn't realize he was still available until the other day, you know, and I'm like, I remember when he was cut and thinking, oh my God, somebody's going to pounce on this dude. He's not going to last very long. And here we are, end of July, almost August, and Justin Simmons is still out there. Eventually, he will get work, but I'm just shocked that he hasn't signed. I mean, we just saw Jamal Adams get a job. We just saw um, Eddie Jackson get signed. Like all these veteran safeties, and no mention of Justin Simmons. That's wild to me. But could it be that he's priced himself out of a lot of teams' market, or like he's looking for the right opportunity? I'm pretty sure his phone has rung. His agent has gotten, several calls about him coming and working out for a team. Maybe he's looking for a championship opportunity, the right opportunity. Maybe. But at some point you're like, look, I just need to get a check. I need to be in somebody's camp. I need to get paid. Um, it's amazing that he's not on an NFL roster right now. But like Washington won't be, barking up that tree. I don't think they'll be interested in David Bakhtiari or anybody like that. I think if you're looking for significant free agent moves, think they're pretty much done in that department. But again, there'll be some smaller moves, lower level moves that I think they'll look to make. Again, seeing what teams cut some of their players and whether or not Washington could use one or two of those if they're young and talented, or the kicking situation is what I'm gonna continue to harp on and harken back to, because I think ultimately that's where they're going to be their most aggressive when teams start shedding their roster of the additional kickers that they have. That's when you'll see Washington, I think, be a bit aggressive. Maybe sign, two kickers to come in and compete. Um, I still can't imagine Ramiz Ahmed being our opening day kicker in week 1 against Tampa Bay. I can't imagine him being on the roster, but he'll get an opportunity. I don't want to discount him. And, as I mentioned, of late, he's struggled, but I'm not going to discount him. I think he's still got a shot, but I think they want to upgrade that position. So we'll see what happens. And yes, they're going to roll that money over um, and put themselves from a cap standpoint in tremendous position next year to re-sign Sam Cosmi, to think about start doing new deals with guys like Jonathan Allen and Terry McLaurin, guys like that. Well, they'll have decisions to make on some of those players, and they can decide to extend those guys out if they so choose. Um, Start taking care of some of their own players, and also they can be a little bit aggressive in free agency. You saw them dish out a few 3-year deals to guys like Tyler Biadasz and Frankie Louvu and Dorrance Armstrong, and you may see them do that again next year. Another 3 or 4 guys getting 3-4 year deals, and see them, start to spend a little bit of that money. But at the end of the day, take care of the guys that you need to take care of. If Cosmi goes out and balls again, you take care of him. If Terry and Jonathan Allen are guys that you feel like are core guys, you take care of them, extend them, keep them here. So there's some decisions to be made, obviously. But when it's all said and done, I don't think you're going to see them be very aggressive the remainder of this year, right? So, um, John Wynn says, I can't wait for the 2024-2025 NFL season to start. Soon can call the 24-25 NFL season start already. I'm dying. It it'll be here before you know it. Like I told somebody earlier in the week, I want to say I was doing the training camp confidential last night on Sunday. And I told him, I'm like, the first preseason game is this week. Like the Hall of Fame game is on Thursday. And it's hard for people to wrap their brain around the fact that, oh my God, the Hall of Fame game is this week, first, Thursday in August. So if I'm not mistaken, August 1st is the first Thursday in August, first day in August, actually. and that's the Hall of Fame game. So that kind of kicks everything off, and then after that, you're off and you're running, right? That following week, you get a full slate of preseason games and action, and then from that point forward, I mean, obviously there'll be that 1 week at the end of August where there's no NFL games, but then the college games will start to kick in. And really, once we get this game on Thursday, we will be off and running, and there will not be another week without some sort of football for the next 6 months. We will go all the way from August to February, and there will be football every step of the way, whether it's college or NFL. Once we get to September, it's NFL all the way until February. But once we get this game on Thursday, it's football from here all the way to February with college sprinkled in. So understand that the drought is almost over. Now, we know this preseason product is garbage. So it's not something that I get overly hyped like I used to once upon a time. The preseason has become less and less valuable for teams. These joint practices have kind of taken over. Preseason is always going to exist. It's I think they're going to reduce it one more time when they extend this schedule out to 18 games. I think it also comes with a reduced preseason from 3 to 2 games, which really sucks for the back end of the roster guys who need those games to prove that they belong on an NFL roster, but they don't care about those players. They don't care about that product. They care about the actual game product. Um, and so I think you're going to see the reduction of the preseason even further here shortly. But in the meantime, it will remain an inferior product, but it's a product nonetheless. And as we as fans have gotten more and more involved in the day-to-day activities of our teams, preseason games for the diehards, they're still entertaining because while it may not be the best game to watch and they don't count and there's nothing on the line from a wins and losses standpoint, you're watching those back end of the roster guys because we obsess over, the guy that we took in the 5th or the 6th or the 7th round, the guy that's undrafted that you think has a chance to make this roster, or even if he doesn't make it this year, they put him on the practice squad. You think he can develop and turn into something a year or two down the road. Like, we're very invested in players that once upon a time, if you weren't one of the main players on the roster, we could care less. We could care less about your development. We could care less about, you possibly making the practice squad, right? We're so involved in every single move that is made now, including the, 12 to 16 guys that'll be on the practice squad, and, what positions that they're going to, maybe look to add via, a couple of teams cutting players at these positions here or there. So we're all over that stuff. And the only way to be really locked into that is to actually watch these preseason games. So people are still going to be invested. It's just amazing how far we've come as fans and how much how much of this stuff we consume. It's amazing. But I will say this, the Hall of Fame game still holds value because it does signify the start of something beautiful. But the game itself is a terrible product. It's the worst preseason game of them all, that first game. But it's just good to see football back on your television screen, right? That's what this is going to signify. Kevin writes, Hold in. The team likes knowing you're participating and not causing drama at least. Also, Packers have Morgan playing right guard instead of tackle. Thoughts on how he could do as a guard? Well, a lot of people thought he was a guard. I thought that he was more of a guard than tackle. He may ultimately kick outside, but remember, he has short arms. Um, he's a tremendous athlete, but he's got shorter arms, and that was the thing that a lot of people felt like was going to ultimately kick him inside. And he was one of those guys that I think a lot of people viewed similarly to like a Brandon Sheriff. Super athletic, has a chance to be a mauler inside as a guard, but as a tackle, he could maybe cut it out there, but you're not sure. You think the arm length or lack thereof was going to be what ultimately kicked him inside. But you wanted to see. And so I'm not shocked that he is playing guard. You lose John Runyon in free agency, and you've had some, success with some of the guys that you've brought along and coached up as guys that can play tackle. So I'm not shocked that you kicked him inside right now. I don't think you're really hurting all that much um, at tackle necessarily. And I think he's going to be just fine at guard. Actually, I think he's going to end up being a better guard than tackle, to be honest with you. So I'm not shocked that you kicked him inside. I wasn't a big Jordan Morgan fan from a tackle standpoint. I know my team was sniffing around and interested, but I was like, I'm good on him because he's, I think, more a guard at the NFL level than a tackle. So I'm not surprised that's where he's playing, right now. But again, time will tell if that's ultimately where he'll play. But it feels like his home in the NFL, guard does. And you say that you think the hold in is better. I think it's a better option too. I think it's the better of the two because the team gets to lay eyes on you, and there's a dialogue there. There's communication. If you're in the building, you're there. We can talk. I mean, even if ultimately we're still disconnected and we're not close in terms of a number, or you in the case of Ayuk, I just don't know if they're really truly interested in doing anything long term with him. So the number may not even be important. It's philosophically, we just don't think doing a long term deal with you right now makes a ton of sense for us because we still, not only are you still on a rookie deal on the last year of that rookie deal, but we still have the option of the franchise tag next year too, if we wanted to extend this thing and string it out while we're still trying to keep this Super Bowl window open before we pay Brock Purdy. So again, um, the 49ers, I just don't know if it makes any sense, but like you said, it's from a franchise standpoint, it makes a lot more sense to have the guy there. From a player standpoint, I don't know if it makes a lot more sense from the player standpoint to be there, but I do think if you're really truly all in on trying to get something done, the best thing is to hold in and not hold out. Right. I think I agree with you there. Samuel S writes, would you rather have Jay Herbo or Daiquiri Prescott sweet like syrup? Jay Herbo all day, every day, twice on Sunday. That's not even up for a discussion. And not because Dak sucks or anything. I'm not one of those Dak sucks type guys. There's value in Dak Prescott. But the upside on Justin Herbert is ridiculous. I'm actually fascinated to see how things go with him in Los Angeles. I wouldn't be shocked if they won that division this year and made some serious noise in the AFC. They're a sleeping giant, are the Chargers. And getting Jim Harbaugh is possibly the antidote to waking them up. We'll see, but it makes them awfully dangerous. I'll tell you that much. HTTR Carson writes, did you hear what Devontae Adams said about the Commanders fan? Ranked them last in the league. Yeah. That thing hit my timeline, of course. I don't have any issues with what he said. Did I like it? No. I mean, but that's his opinion. Who am I to tell him how he should feel about the different places he's played? And the only thing I would say about his comments were, you haven't been here, right? Like, you don't know our fan base. You haven't been here. You didn't even play somewhere that played against us very often to even be able to say that, right? You played in Green Bay. You didn't play Washington a ton of times, but he played against us enough, to have some sort of a feel. I think he was just going strictly based off of um, how bad it was in Washington, you know. So yeah, I heard what he said. I didn't give a shit, to be honest with you. It didn't really bother me any, because this is the thing. This is what people I get a kick out of our fan base, because a lot of the fan base acts as if we didn't just come out of one of the worst situations in sports history, not franchise history, not NFL history, sports. We were one of the worst run organizations in sports. We went from one of the flag bearing franchises of the NFL, one of the most prestigious franchises in all of sports, one of the most financially stable and most, I would say, at one point we were probably, if there was an evaluation done of the Washington Redskins in the early 90s, you could argue we were the most profitable sports organization. Now, the Lakers and the Yankees and, those organizations might have had something to say about that. But in the NFL, for sure, we were the number one. I mean, even up until like '05, we were going back and forth with Dallas for number one. We were fighting back and forth. And then, somewhere in the late 2000s is where that kind of fell off the cliff and we never really recovered. But um, we fell on some hard times. Like, just because we're doing better now, just because we can see the light at the end of the tunnel and the future seems bright, and we just came off of one of the most zen-like off seasons in recent memory, you can't forget where we just came from. Devontae Adams is speaking to that. He's speaking to the dysfunction that existed here, a fan base that was fractured. Our name has changed. We lost a lot of fans in that. We lost a lot of fans in Daniel Snyder having owned the team for as long as he did. We were a miserable franchise, and our fan base reflected that. I don't see, like, you don't have to like what he said, and you don't even have to agree with him, but you have to acknowledge that it was pretty shitty being a fan of this team. It's pretty bad. Those of us who weathered the storm and forged forward in the face of adversity, we deserve a pat on the back, because it wasn't easy. And a lot of people quit. A lot of fans quit and put down the team for a long time. And then when Snyder finally left, they picked the team back up. And that's fine. I've always said, I'll never judge any fan that decided this is too much for me, I'm out, and recently just came back, or they're thinking about coming back. I'll never judge those fans, because who am I to tell somebody when enough's enough? Antonio Gibson just said that our organization was essentially dysfunctional, and that he's seeing what a real NFL organization looks like. And there are fans that are upset. Upset for what? There's no lies detected in anything that he said. He came from a dysfunctional organization. We just got rid of Ronald Rivera and company. It was one of the worst coaching staffs in the NFL. Yes, it was a dysfunctional organization that Antonio Gibson was a part of for the first 4 years of his career. You damn right it was a mess. He should feel that way, especially if New England's doing it in a way that makes him feel like, oh shit, this is a breath of fresh air. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is first class. Good for him. It was horrible. Not because where we are now, you can try to act as if, oh, forget Antonio Gibson. You're part of the reason. I saw a lot of the comments. You're a part of the reason we sucked. You kept fumbling. Shut up. Shut up. What are you talking about? Him fumbling wasn't why we sucked. Our organization was terrible from the top down. One guy fumbling wasn't changing the fortunes of a franchise that hasn't had a franchise quarterback in over 3 decades. What are you talking about? We sucked because Taylor Heineke and Carson Wentz and Alex Smith were our quarterbacks. We sucked because we started Kyle Allen at quarterback. Dwayne Haskins, may he rest in peace, at quarterback. We sucked because Daniel Snyder was our owner for over a quarter of a century. We sucked because Ronald Rivera was our head coach, because Jack Del Rio was our defensive coordinator, because Eric Bieniemy and Scott Turner were our last 2 offensive coordinators. We sucked for a lot of reasons. So just understand, when you hear something from somewhere or somebody says something, don't get all in your feelings. You may not agree, you may disagree, and I don't agree with everything that Devontae Adams said. He doesn't know us like that. He doesn't know anything about this fan base. He didn't play here. He didn't play in a division. What the hell do you know about the Washington Commanders fan base? He doesn't know shit about us. But we were down pretty bad as a fan base. I mean, who are we kidding? We were down bad. We were down bad. Corey says, I'm excited that special teams for kickoff is finally back. I think it'll be a huge factor in games this year. It could be. I'm anxious to see what it looks like. I'm really anxious to see what it looks like. It's going to be fun. If nothing else, it'll make the games a lot more entertaining, which is what they were aiming to do. Mr. Debro says, that man said the city is trash. That's the thing that I disagree with the most, because again, you didn't live here. You don't know anything about our, the city, right? Again, it's kind of convoluted because, first of all, is he talking about DC or is he talking about Maryland? Like, it was kind of a vague statement, because where the actual stadium is trash. I'm not gonna sit here and defend Landover, Maryland, and the piece of land that habitates FedEx Field or Commander's Field right now. It's a bad location. It's a terrible field. It's a dump of a stadium. The logistics of it is horrible. Getting in and out of it is a nightmare. There's a lot fundamentally wrong with Commander's Field. And even though Josh Harris and company have come in here and they're dumping over $45 million into the stadium and renovations and trying to enhance the experience, it's still in a bad spot. Logistically, it's still a nightmare. There's only so much you can do. It's a bad stadium and we need a new one. So if he's talking about Landover, Maryland, go right ahead. I'm not defending Landover, Maryland. If you're talking about the city, if you're talking about DC, then we have a problem. Again, I didn't hear the entire interview, so I can't get into the specifics of what he said, because I only heard clips and snips, and that's why I always choose to not talk about things unless I got the full context of everything. But it felt like he was shitting on us, but I didn't have a problem with it because for a while we were really shitty. It's not, we were an easy target. But You come back and somebody asks you about Washington this past year, and you still talking that shit. Now I got a problem because we ain't what we once were. We're a different outfit now. It's easy to shit on us for the things that went on for the past 25 years because it was a mess. It was a mess. But you come here, you play a game here every 2, 3 years, and you think you know the city. You don't have to like it. Don't shit on the whole city, right? But if you're just talking about Landover, Maryland, the stadium where it is, all that stuff, I don't have much for you, man. It's DJ 23 says, chill out, Lou. I'm from Landover. Hey, I'm sorry, bro. I ain't got much for you, man. Hey, you got oh man. Anyway, I digress. I'm gonna chill, man. I'm gonna chill. Let's get to our final segment of the show and garbage time. So we get the last installment of the off-season Hard Knocks with the New York Giants. It's been a glorious series. I hope it's something that they continue to do moving forward. Like I told you, I'm more intrigued by the off-season process of building a roster than I am cutting a roster down and the training camp aspect. I'm going to watch the training camp with the Chicago Bears, and we know that they're going to really build up Caleb Williams in that situation. So I'll be watching that, and we'll be talking about it on the podcast. But this Giants off-season Hard Knocks has been outstanding, and we're getting to the final episode now. I wonder how they're gonna. Obviously, they left us off at the draft, so we're gonna go through the draft. They're gonna make their selections, and then I think we're gonna get to see those players show up for rookie minis. I think, and that's probably where we're gonna end up um, ending the show. But excuse me, all in all, it's been a fantastic production. I've been really pleased with how that product turned out, and I can't wait to see what team they have on that series next year. And again, I'm really interested too in how they are going to determine who is on the show or not. Like obviously, teams can volunteer just like they can for Hard Knocks, but will there be stipulations? Can you say, "Nah, I don't want to be on the show"? And does the same thing apply to the off season that applies to the training camp? If you've made the playoffs, if you got a brand new GM, if you got a brand new head coach, whatever, can these be um, factors in saying no, right? I don't want to do it. Versus, hey, if you got the same GM, you got the same coach, you didn't make the playoffs the last 2 years, you're not in a position to turn us down. If we want to choose you, we'll choose you. I wonder if that's going to be how they go about that or not. That'll be interesting to find out moving forward. But the last episode is today, actually, it's after 12 on the East Coast. So I'll be tuning into that. Obviously, we'll be talking about that final episode and any other topics that come out. Make sure if you're out there, I'm gonna tell you this. This is something that I say every year, but protect your stuff. Guys are going down. The Colts just lost a pass rusher to an Achilles. Um, the Cowboys just lost a pass rusher to an ACL. So protect your stuff. The Reaper's out to task. Be mindful, be respectful, right? Don't disrespect the Reaper. And hope that you've built up enough good juju that he has mercy on your team and that you get to the starting blocks with as many of your big ticket items and best players as humanly possible. Shit, I want all my stuff. I want the backups and everything, but he's out to task, man. We know how it goes this time of the year, but Lee Lewis says we can do this the easy way or the hard way, but you will be on Hard Knocks. That's kind of how it goes when you don't have any of the markers in your favor. If you didn't make the playoffs in any of the last 2 years, if you don't have a new coach, and you haven't been on it in the last decade, you don't have any say so, right? We get to choose which one of those teams we want to be on. So I wonder if they'll apply that to the offseason or not. That'll be very, very fascinating. I would assume that if you got a new general manager or a head coach, they wouldn't want you on the show. I wouldn't want to do it. It's too much. I mean, just having watched what Washington just went through this offseason and how much of a whirlwind it was, I can't imagine somebody showing up in January or even February in the case of Washington, um, and trying to film a show like that. You'd have to have a GM and a coach who's already been there for multiple years to pull that off, like the Giants had. You know, Joe Shane had already been there for multiple years. Um, um, Brian Daboll had already been there. This is going to be year 3 for him. He had already been there 2 years, so kind of feels like you need some kind of stability there, right? You can't just be throwing a random group up there that just assembled. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on this installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I look forward to joining you guys tomorrow. We'll be back on the podcast tomorrow. Um, More likely than not, we'll do the Washington training camp confidential early in the day, like we did today. And then tomorrow night, we'll do the podcast. It'll be a little bit earlier, though. It won't be as late because obviously we had the NFC East Super Friends yesterday, last night. So it kind of pushed the podcast back a little bit more. There will be no such thing tomorrow. So as soon as that Giants episode 5, the series finale, is done, I'll be able to jump on. So it'll be roughly around 10 o'clock ish tomorrow night. We'll be back for the Louie T Network podcast. And at that time, I will have my pre training camp power rankings, all 32 teams. We'll discuss that tomorrow night, along with the Giants Hard Knocks episode 5. And so we'll have a number of topics to discuss. All 32 teams are now officially in camp. And I think after tomorrow, all 32 teams would have put the pads on. I think there may be 2 or 3 teams that got there, later that haven't put on, because every team has that ramp up period that you have to go through. That's a part of the CBA now, that ramp up period before you don't just come in, throw pads on 2 days in. There's about 3 or 4 practices that you have prior to you putting on the pads for the first time. Washington had, I believe, 4 practices before they put the pads on. So I think it's somewhere in that neighborhood for almost every NFL team before you put the pads on. So I think we're getting to the point now where just about every team should have been in pads at least once by the time we get to the beginning of August. And again, Thursday, August 1st, Hall of Fame game. Look out. Bart Scott. Can't wait. Anyway, I digress. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys tomorrow. You'll see my face a ton tomorrow. Again, podcast, training camp confidential, and the Louie T Network exclusives. I'll be doing a quick live stream for that to raise engagement, among other things. So you'll be seeing me for that as well. It's football season. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Man, it feels good. See you guys next time.